Continuing, and I'm bringing out these names because these names need to be actually remembered and researched because you're getting the information of how this was created, how this was started, right up under your nose. It says the hypothesis was that the electrical activity of the brain during thought may be similar to the electrical activity of the brain during overt speech. Damn, and that just came to my spirit because they was just showing how a few elders and a few brothers brought out about how they got that talk to text thing where they can go over and actually change what you done put in a video. They could change what you said. So you know what I mean? Who's to say they can't actually change what you said or putting thoughts in your head to actually how you say? Oh man, the EEG of the subjects were measured using scalp electrodes over the frontal temporal lobe, Slocket, frontal temporal lobes. The research was predicted, Slovakia, predicated on the assumption that thought is nothing more than covert speech. Subjects were shown picture cards of the words they were to think about as their EEGs was recorded. The research concluded that the EEG revealed similar responses during silent reading to that which Slovakia to silent reading to that during overt speech, and that these responses may be classified correctly by a computer with a high degree of accuracy. Pino's, Pinino's Salakian. Panino's study also focused on identifying the EEG patterns of homonyms. Homonyms are words like right and right. So basically, you got the word right, like you're writing something down, and right, like you're making a right turn, which are pronounced the same but have different meanings. EEG patterns were similar when subjects thought the single word right or right. However, if the subjects thought of the word in the context of a phrase, the EEG was capable of discriminating similarly articulated words. Electrodes were placed at various sites on the scalp. However, temporal lobe electrodes demonstrated the most statistically significant accuracy. To the contrary, electrodes placed over the occipital, occipital or parietal areas of the brain had a no better than chance correlation. Oh, but that's going into the point. Because I was about to skip this, but it's going into the point that I was just making. It said one must remember that Dr. Panino's research was conducted in 1972 with relatively crude technology for measuring the EEG. Despite technological shortcomings, he was still able to construct an EEG dictionary of certain words that were only thought by the subjects. And at the end of the day, I'm gonna skip some of this because I'm taking time to think about it. Like I say, where do you think? How did they get this technology, like harp and stuff now though, based on the research of this stuff here? You get what I'm saying? Uh, and then that's why I'm giving out names and the patent numbers because it's a patent number for since the research that followed focused on remotely sensing the small electrical potential generated by the brain. Remotely detecting the EEG would negate the need for scalp electrodes and alleviate the requirement for informal consent on the subjects. It said and alleviate the requirement for informal consent. So being that they developed the technology to the point where they didn't actually, because if like you gotta place those electrodes on a person, you gotta get a person to sit and put this on them or go through these tests. Well, whatever they developed, they didn't have to do that no more. Like, and that's why you've had randomly, like I remember years, a few, in different time periods, hearing of how you had groups of people sitting there, I'm hearing things, like you've had people that have done, um, basically like have committed crimes considered by Esau crimes and whatnot, or did things that you like. This guy bugged out, but they'll be telling you they're hearing voices. You know what I mean? Like Son of Sam. You know, Son of Sam was some other shit though. That dude, what was his name? David Berkowitz or whatever. He was in a cult. You know, he was all into like Satanism and all that, and they never tell you that. You know what I mean? Like a lot of these mass things, like what do you think? Fucking Charlie Manson was into. You know what I mean? That wasn't just no fucking. Oh yeah, we're hippies. You know, they was off into some other shit. You know what I'm saying? You gotta do some research, baby. Like Apostle Tara said, he said that this thing take a lot of study. You know what I'm saying? But I appreciate and respect it because it says in scripture, a king searches out a thing. You ain't just gonna be given shit. You know what I'm saying? That's why it take like if you ever played a game of chess, a deadly piece, and if you know how to play a little bit, is a pawn, and that's why the pawn is rewarded when he get to the other end. He becomes a king. You know what I'm saying? Only piece that becomes a king is a pawn. That one lowly piece, and then I mean, he could become any piece for real, like I mean. But at the end, it take a pawn to get over there. He becomes the king. In my mind, the way I'm saying it, I mean, like when you get to that other end, you know, you could pick to be a rook or the castle or the rook or the bishop or you know, you could be the queen. But like I said, that's why it make more sense. Like how the brother brought out about how back in the day it was really the king that moved all around, and the queen only moved one step, like how the king does today, proving how they got women worship here. I did a video on that as well because when you go into it, you know what I mean. Like I'll never forget on Mother's Day, it's a statue. It's headless. You know, you can see the breast on it, but you know you can't see the legs or whatnot. And you go into that whole research with that statue means, and you know they showing you the paganism right there. But it says once researcher Robert G. Malek researched remotely monitoring and altering brainwave. Let me repeat. One researcher, Robert G. Malek, researched remotely monitoring and altering brain waves, which culminated in the filing U.S. patent number 3951134 in 1974. This apparatus involved transmitting a base signal and a first signal to the brain of a monitored subject. The brain of the subject would then transmit a second signal back to a receiver in response to the two incoming signals. Essentially, the two incoming signals would entrain with the brain and with the brain's inherent electrical frequency and or interference waveform would be returned to a receiver. The interference waveform could then be demodulated, amplified, and displayed visually before being routed to a computer. And this is in 1974. According to Malek, the demodulated waveform will be used to produce a compensating signal which could be transmitted back to the brain. The compensating signal could be artificially attempted to train the normal brain activity and produce a desired change in the subject's brain. In Malek's description of the apparatus, he specifically mentioned its value in monitoring a conscious subject without his awareness. His patent was published in 1976, and his apparatus was comprised of components commonly employed in radar systems at the time. Coincidentally, another discovery relating to radar installation was the Frey effect or microwave hearing, which will be covered later. I'm going to continue with this. Malek concluding paragraph in the published patent stated, persons in critical positions such as drivers and pilots can be continuously monitored with provisions for activation of an emergency device in the event of human failure. Seizures, sleepiness, and dreaming can be detected. Bodily functions such as pulse rate, heartbeat, regularity, and others can also be monitored, and occurrences of hallucination can be detected. The system also permits medical diagnosis of patients accessible to physicians from remote stations. It must be remembered that Malek's apparatus was theorized in 1976 with vastly inferior technology compared to today. Advances in computational speed and monitoring technology have taken Dr. Panino's EEG dictionary and Malek's remote EEG monitoring apparatus further than even they had dreamed. Using these basic concepts, more modern research has focused on converting the received electromagnetic waveforms back into audible thought that can be monitored and recorded. Essentially, mind reading has come of age and has been in use among intelligence agencies for a number of years now. I'm going to repeat this one more time. Essentially, mind reading has come of age and has been in use among intelligence agencies for a number of years now. In addition to monitoring the subject's thought, researchers have also capitalized on Malek's early discovered EEG entrainment techniques. And I'm gonna stop there reading out of here, but I'm just gonna end this with a script, and I'll probably do one more video to close out the subject. And that's why I wanted to read or close out the chapter. That's why I wanted to read this book, because it's actually like this Esau, because this looked like an Edomite. I mean, he might be a Jake, because he got a guitar on here while he taking his picture. You know what I mean? In his head, like he got a little charisma. You know what I'm saying? A little, you know what I mean? Like a little salt. You know what I'm saying? So you know what I mean? He might be a Jake. You know what I'm saying? But it is scripture say that tongues shall fall upon themselves. But at the same time, I'm gonna end this video on this note. This is the book of 2 Corinthians, chapter 2, verse 11. Least Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. So that's why I'm bringing this out. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, you heard it from out of, you know, this is actually patented information, patented devices. You know, they've been able to read thoughts. So if they can read them, they probably can plant them there too. So with that, I want to say, call halal Allah Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shah Waha Rakadas with thumb. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, taught me this truth. Peace and salutations to the Akim around the four corners of the earth, pushing the truth with faith and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedom to do so. Shalom to the Akwap and Akim out there listening and learning. Lord willing, this was a edifying video. Shalom to the elders of apostles that taught me this truth. To all the sincere Akim, pushing the truth with faith and sincerity, risking their lives and freedom to do so. And with that, I want to say shalom, shalom. Stay up, stay prayed up, brothers. As you can see, it's getting closer. But like Apostle Gabar said in that video he made, you know, as Yahweh Shai got closer to, you know, the cross, the heavier the cross got. So, you know, expect the afflictions to turn up, these demons to get more riled up. You know, I know that for a fact just from an incident that happened at our last camp. You know, so at the end of the day, just, you know, like I believe I said this statement before, and I'm gonna say it again. At the end of the day, it took me a minute to realize it. So trust and believe I can understand, but you're gonna have to, you know, you're gonna have to figure out what's gonna keep you grounded in this thing, and that's the thing that makes this truth bearable. As hard as it is, this is like the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. At the end of the day, as hard as it is, what makes it bearable is because you're not the only one that's going through it. That's why we are a body. That's why we are a brotherhood. And once you come to understand that, that's what makes it, you know, a beautiful thing with all the affliction. Because it's two-sided. You know, if you really got the spiritual eye and you really in the truth, you're going to see, damn, I catch some affliction, or my brother catch affliction. But then you can see the love that we have for one another. You know what I mean? You know, you can see how, like, you ain't just going through that pain and that affliction by yourself. You know, it shows you how cold and terrible the Most High could be, but it also shows you how merciful the Most High could be too. Like this is a hell of a walk, and you know, to be honest, you know, it's not easy, but I wouldn't give up this for the world, you know, and I've given up a lot in this thing. But, you know, at the end of the day, it also says in scripture that, you know, we're not the only ones to give up things for this. I'm not trying to single myself out or put myself on the pedestal. I've heard a lot of brothers mention what they've given up. At the end of the day, the thing is, like the brother said, I was listening to Ancient today. They said we're catching our judgment now, so we don't catch our judgment in that day of Jacob's trouble. You know what I mean? So Lord will, we are the men that are spared. what's to come. And with that, I want to say shalom, shalom, and abad babal.